Okay, I'll take off my mask. Welcome everyone to the Innovation and Commercialization Work Group. I have with me my work group members. I found them here, so I thought it would be great to have them invited up on stage to support the session. I have Robert and Ichikawa-san. Yeah, thank you. Please, yeah. I believe I also have online some of my members from France, the US, Germany. So my name is Lawrence. I'm the co-chair for the Innovation and Commercialization Work Group, and really glad to be here in Japan to present the work that we've been doing the last 1 year. And besides me, my partner in crime, Francois Solé, who is the scientific advisor at Hub France AI. I believe she's online, but unfortunately she can't make it personally to Japan this time around. The mandate for the Innovation and Commercialization Working Group, or INC, is to study and recommend tools and methods, okay, for driving AI R&D innovation, and specifically focus on the SME. And one of the things that we really want to do is, besides producing reports, we want to produce toolkits that member countries can actually take and use. And I think you will see some of those outcomes later. So we have basically three projects. The broad adoption of AI by SMEs, which is co-lead by myself and Ingo Hoffman, with the assistance of Kwan Chet, also from Singapore. The second one is protecting AI innovation and intellectual property, co-led by Lee Tedrich and Jan Dietrich. Not related, but close enough. And the third one is the broad adoption of AI by SMEs in the agricultural and farming sector, specifically, led by Ima Martinez and Danilo Ras. So I'll share the first one, the first group, the SME advisory group, which I co-lead. And then we'll have the rest. We have made recordings, but the co-leads themselves will actually be online in case there are questions specifically for them. So we'll talk a little bit about the background, what are the achievements to date, and plan for the next step. That means what we're going to do in 2023. So a very quick introduction.
My name is Ingo Hoffman. I'm the co-chair of the SME Advisory Group. We started the group because almost all of GPAI member states have a similar challenge. Small and mid-sized enterprises employ the majority of the country's workforce, 80% or more in most cases. Many of those organizations are not aware of the advantages they could get from artificial intelligence. They do lack the resources, skills, the data, or the IT infrastructure to develop or to deploy and adopt AI solutions. Our aim is to support these organizations and to ensure that they can gain an advantage from adopting artificial intelligence. Our recommendations have been implemented into a web portal, which we will present to you today.
So that was Ingo, whom I got him to do a recording. So what have we done? What have we achieved? We have produced a portal. It is a template which we hope countries can adopt. We're not expecting countries to adopt the whole portal wholesale. There is basically the ideas that we want you to adopt. If you want to adopt everything, perfectly okay, just let us know. You provide access to that. We have, in producing the portal, recommendations included we need a way to determine the AI maturity of the SMEs and also the solution providers who are providing the solutions to these SMEs. So we've developed the AI Mind or AI Maturity Index and the Solution Provider Maturity Index. We have actually conducted a few tests of the portal, and France, Germany, Poland, and Singapore, we conducted a 3-month field test from June to September. So it was challenging for our European colleagues because that was summer, but they still managed to get it done. And to support all the portal operators and in future all member countries who are going to participate in this, we also have created a forum where we hope portal operators, the developers of this portal can come in and build a community and ask questions or ask for help or provide useful feedback to the team. So like what Ingo was saying, the whole idea is, it's great that we're going to produce, we have the report, we have the recommendation, but we want to actualize it, and we are doing that by creating a portal that help to accelerate the adoption of AI by SMEs in a couple of ways. One, making sure that the SMEs, obviously, they are very keen to improve their business through the adoption of AI solutions, but they need help, and therefore the portal will match them to solution providers. But we also have to qualify the solution providers, making sure that they are real AI solution providers. Okay, so that's where the solution provider maturity index comes in. And this portal will be supported by portal operator. Now, be very clear, GPAI is not going to be the portal operator. Each member country who is interested will have to take the portal. You can download, there's no cost, and run it on your own. So you have to find a suitable vehicle within your country to actually run the portal. For larger countries, there may be multiple portals because you have different provinces and different states and so on. But for smaller countries like Singapore, there's probably just going to be one portal operator. So there's a quick demonstration or video of the SME portal that we have today. So when we look at building this, it's really from the viewpoint of the SME user. What would a SME need to help them start their AI journey? So we look at, yes, we need to provide them resources. So the portal has resources in there. Again, GPAI is not going to provide you all the resources. We encourage each country to work with your local IHLs and companies to actually put their resources into the portal, right? So every country, Singapore, the video you saw was from Singapore, we had our resources. In France and Germany, their portal, they have their own local resources. And then to discover their own AI maturity, so that's through the AI Mind, right? We want SME to know where they are, in a way to pressurize them to accelerate their AI journey, because if they find that they are behind their peers, hopefully they will, start work faster. And obviously there needs to be a search function to find out what are the use cases or who are the solution providers that's in the country that can help them. Now, again, the SME portal is meant for you to implement in your country. It is not for a SME to look for a solution provider. For example, if the SME is in Japan, to look for a solution provider in Singapore. It doesn't make sense because the cost of business will be too high. So it's really for a SME user in Japan to look for a SME solution provider in Japan. That is the whole purpose. And and when the SME user is searching, there will be a list of AI use cases, again, contributed by the solution providers in that country, not by GPAI members. Obviously, we now have accumulated 50 or 60 use cases which we can share. We can put it out there for you as to use as part of your portal, but you will need your own local use cases. And the use cases, we will have details of the project, whether is it funded, what was the impact on employees, and so on. So these are some of the very specific questions that we asked. And if there is a use case that matches the SME's search, he or she can find who is the solution provider and find out more about the solution provider, and if comfortable, can reach out to the solution provider, right? And that's where we do the match. And again, the system we have set up in such a way that we leave it to the country to decide whether you will allow the SME user to reach out to the solution provider directly, or for some countries they have said, no, I as a portal operator wants to have oversight. SME user, you contact me, I will link you up to the solution provider. Again, the system is up to you to configure. So for the solution provider, same thing. They have to register for an account. There are several onboarding steps, and there's actually have been some feedback on that. We'll improve on that. But the whole idea is we want to qualify, and we need to qualify the solution provider, because as a portal operator, likely you are going to be a government or semi-government entity or a trade association. You do not want to be recommending solution providers who may disappear the next week after they get the client's money. So we have to be very careful about that. So the solution provider maturity index, including interviews and so on, are several steps that we have put in place to make sure that whoever is listed on the portal is properly qualified. The portal operator, we have not forgotten. We have tried to make sure that it's easy to manage. So there are dashboards for the portal operator to track applications of the solution provider and so on and so forth. So from the field tests that we have conducted, so over 3 months, right, in 4 countries, we have reached out to 63 solution providers and 53 SMEs. Now, we did not want to have like too many SMEs and too little solution providers. We wanted nearly a 1-to-1 ratio, because this was really a test of the system. And you can see the numbers by France, Germany, Poland, Singapore there listed. So it's very encouraging that each country's local ecosystem, the portal operators or people who are involved in the project, are able to reach out to partners and friends, the solution providers and the SMEs to actually come in and participate. And it has given us very, very good feedback, and which I'll share here. Before this is just a snapshot of nearly all the companies that have participated, all the SMEs and solution providers that have participated in this trial, and we really appreciate their time and effort to be part of this effort. So, what have we learned from this 3 months trial? And this really the key, right, of doing this, the whole effort for this year. Most of the SMEs found that the AI maturity index was very useful. It basically gave them an idea where they are in their AI journey. For the solution provider, they have found similarly the solution provider maturity index to be very useful also, because they know then, okay, they could be very strong in the modeling part, but they're actually very weak in the ethics part. They need to beef up on that. The portal operator, they like the simple dashboard that we have built for them. But obviously, there are also things that we can improve. The search systems, the search results was not consistent, so we need to get that to a higher accuracy. Solution provider found that there was too many onboarding tasks, so it became very cumbersome. So we are looking at ways to simplify, but yet at the same time making sure that quality of the solution provider is still maintained. Portal operator found the administrative workload to be quite heavy for the onboarding. Fortunately, this will be tied to simplifying the onboarding process. So once we are able to simplify the onboarding process, the workload will get reduced. So what do we hope to achieve in 2023?
So what is next for the SME Advisory Group? We gained very valuable feedback in our field test of the portal, which of course we now want to make use of. We also have much more confidence on the support that we can give to the small and mid-sized enterprises, as well as to other stakeholders like startups and solution providers by providing the portal. Let's have a look at the timeline and the next steps that we have planned for 2023. With the summit today, we like to really start engaging with the member states to discuss how to deploy the portal in each country and how to support small and mid-sized organizations in the member states. We also do have a side event that we hold to have a more detailed discussion on exactly that topic at the summit. Over the next few months, we will also implement some of the feedback that we got from our field test to make the portal even better in terms of operations and usability. And in Q2 next year, we really like to start the rollout of the portal in the member states, having the official launch and supporting the member states in a successful implementation in the countries. Thank you.
Okay, so that's for the SME advisory group. Are there any questions before we move on to the next group? From the floor or online participants? Yes.
So you collected like 63 participants, right? So did you make any kind of summary aggregate view of maybe 63 is not enough, I don't know, but let's say, did you see some kind of shapes of what's happening within these companies, where they're going and so on? So kind of a little bit deeper understanding of this landscape.
So the purpose of this trial was not to understand the landscape per se. It was really to test the features and functionalities of the portal. But I'm sure each country would have gotten better insights into their ecosystem for those doing it the first time. From a Singapore experience, obviously I can share that. We have found that the AI solution providers, there are pockets of these very good solution providers, but there are also those who are not really ready yet. For the SME users, I think the ratios we are seeing across is pretty consistent. Of those that registered for this portal and those that we have done in other work, let's say out of 100, maybe about 20 or 30 of the SMEs are ready for AI. So what we call as AI ready. The rest are either AI unaware or AI aware. And for that, then there will be other interventions that we'll recommend. Okay. So one of the things that we have already done in Singapore, and which we are trying to put it in recommending it to all the member countries, is to make sure that there are specific programs targeting those who are AI unaware, AI aware, and AI ready. So it has to be very specific. If not, it's not going to work, because it's going to be very hard and very expensive to try to get an AI unaware company to implement AI solutions, right? So once you know where they are in terms of AI maturity, the right targeted program would be more successful. Maybe, Robert, you want to share what you learned in the exercise in Poland?
Thank you for the floor and question. I think that, Lawrence, you answered everything what was important. I try to focus on my comment on readiness, because of course that was a test of functionality and the structure and the process inside of the portal. But I think that for example, Polish SMEs, that will be first moment that they found some indexes, and they found in front of the decision how to count itself, how to position it on the market finally, and to the solution providers. It's a bit of new knowledge, how to go to the market and how to define yourself. Yeah. That was very valuable for them. Thank you very much.
Yeah. So I think the general feedback is because for the longest time, the SMEs actually do not have an easy way to determine where they are in terms of their AI readiness. And the AI Mind is a very simple survey, as you saw from the video. It's like 10-15 minutes, and you get a quick snapshot of where you are, and you can actually compare to the industry. We have a new member country that just joined, GPAI, and they actually ran a similar version of a survey. And of the 150 companies that responded, they found that about only 30 of them were actually ready to do AI projects. Yes.
Thank you. I have a quick question regarding this score, the index score. Is this the same index for all industries, all size of companies, or is it different? Thank you.
Well, you see, we wanted it to be very simple, to be easily done by someone with enough knowledge of the organization or department, and to be done in like 10 or 15 minutes. So it's really a single score that applies to anyone who takes it. And it can be a department within an organization, or it could be a small company, it could be a large organization, right? And what we look at is really organization readiness. How ready is the organization in terms of AI, whether they have the AI talent in terms of the engineers and the PhDs, or whether and also importantly, whether their workforce is AI literate. That means your admin officers, if you're medical, your nurses, because we want to make sure that they are not afraid of AI, because if you have a workforce that's afraid of AI, your AI implementation will not be successful, because they will be pushing away the solution. And then we look at the AI ethics and governance side of it. We look at the business value, right? That's something that we have learned in Singapore over the last 5 years of doing this. is that if the company is doing AI because the CEO says that we want an AI project to rah-rah, it's not going to be successful. It needs to have real ROI. Then we look at data readiness, whether the company has digital data that can be used to train AI models. And the last one, which is also just as important, if not the most important, whether you have the ML infrastructure or the people that can spin up an ML infrastructure on the cloud and so on. Because a lot of time people forget about the deployment of the AI model. They only think of getting the data, building the model, but after they have the model, how do they go into production? So the last piece is also just as important, yeah. Okay. Any further questions? If not, we'll go through the next group, and I believe Lee is online, but she has recorded the session, so she'll be around to answer any questions if you have.
Good afternoon. My name is Lee Tiedrich, and I'm presenting today with Jan Dietrich, and together Jan and I co-lead the IP Advisory Group within the Innovation and Commercialization Working Group. Our IP Advisory Group brings together experts from many GPAI jurisdictions to develop guidance and tools for navigating intellectual property issues in a way that helps unlock the benefits of AI and mitigates the risk. This year, our advisory group focused on 3 projects, which Jan and I will describe. First, we updated our IP primer, which provides a high-level overview for entrepreneurs and others about intellectual property issues that arise in connection with AI enterprises. Second, since many organizations are engaging in text and data mining and data scraping to help train their AI algorithms, we have developed some really helpful guidance for these activities. Third, recognizing that many organizations want to voluntarily share data and AI models, we have started a project examining ways to facilitate these sharing arrangements through the development of model or template contract terms. And now I'll turn it over to Jan so he can discuss the first 2 projects.
Good morning, good afternoon. It's a great pleasure to be here with you. My name is Jan Dietrich, and I'm the Vice Chair of the IP Committee. Let me first talk about our first project, the IP Primer. It was drafted last year, and it was developed as a guide for any AI entrepreneur and our startup to help them to understand IP implication of AI, and especially how to develop their business and protect their innovation. It covers first an introduction about what is intellectual property, a focus on IP issue specific to AI, understanding the differences between jurisdiction, and a chapter on IP management with a focus on small and medium enterprise. In 2022, we update the IP Primer with 2 objectives. Align it with the view of other working group in GPAI on certain topics, and as well address certain issues highlighted by startups with which we will review this document. For example, we treated with more depth, open source, and as well the use of pre-trained models. This work is really available for all of you to help your entrepreneurs and startups to understand the IP implication of AI, so they can develop further their business, foster the adoption of AI. So please do not hesitate to share this document, to disseminate this document across all entrepreneurs and startups. Our second project is about data scraping. Starting point of this project was really that we realized that in many companies we are facing the exact same question when we have our data scientists or people scraping data from public-facing website. And then comes the question whether this content is actually protected by some copyright, or it will require a license, or is subject to an exception. And obviously, all of this is highly dependent on which jurisdiction you are or not. And today, even if you're looking at the different license under which this content may be available, we are still lacking a standardization of agreements making this data available. So it's sometimes, and most of the case, a case-by-case analysis. And so came the idea of building some simple guidelines to help our data scientists to navigate across all these difficulties. So again, provide general recommendation for data scraping, example of exception for data scraping, which are existing in different jurisdictions. And an important disclaimer is that we are addressing here intellectual property issue, and we are not covering at all personal data issues. So again, these guidelines are here to help to navigate across these difficulties, again, focusing on IP issue and not personal data. Here is an example of a first page where we build some simple do and don't. Again, the purpose of this topic is really to help AI practitioner, data scientists, really to navigate very simply and very quickly across very complex legal issue, and then to really simplify their lives. So again, here's a very simple example. If you have personal data, okay, be careful, you cannot scrape the data. If you have public domain data, then you can do it. And you can look at the document. We have multiple examples of, again, simple do and don't. The second aspect we are touching on is that we have various exceptions in certain countries which will allow you to do data scraping. And that's the kind of things we were trying to, again, get some exposure to AI practitioner, data scientist on certain of these exceptions. And again, a very visual representation of all of these. You don't need to read a very complex document and to get your head again a very complex legal analysis. We try to simplify as much as possible. Obviously, we still have a lot of gray zone on both of the topic we are trying to cover in this document, and what we try to focus on is really where it is clear that it will be authorized, where it is clear that it will not be authorized, and we left the gray zone for future evolution of this document once we will have an idea of what will be the exact law applicable. Thank you.
Our third project focuses on facilitating voluntary data and AI model sharing through licensing and other contract terms. By way of background, we started this project for a couple reasons. First, we recognize that access to data is key for data-driven innovations, including AI systems and applications. Second, we also observed that there is widespread interest in the community to share data and AI models, but that there were significant economic, technical, and legal challenges in doing so. Our goal with this project is to address some of the legal challenges with data sharing, and more specifically to consider how the community might develop model or standardized contract terms that can facilitate voluntary data sharing arrangements. In other words, we are looking to see whether terms similar to those developed for open source software or by Creative Commons could be developed for data and AI models. To inform our work, we reached out broadly to GPAI experts and others for insights on the needs and possible solutions. This slide shows some of the organizations that kindly agreed to participate in interviews in connection with our project. This next slide summarizes some of the key findings that are set forth in our preliminary report. First, we were really pleased to see that the community has recognized the need to develop standardized data sharing and AI model sharing agreements, and various efforts are currently underway to develop these forms. However, we also observe that these efforts are still relatively nascent. Second, there seemed to be broad consensus that in order to develop forms that will be widely accepted and embraced, it's really important to get multi-stakeholder input into the process. And several of the organizations that are currently working on forms are engaging in this multi-stakeholder process. Third, we also observed that there are a wide range of different types of data and AI model sharing arrangements, and there really is no one-size-fits-all approach. So therefore, we really see a need to develop a menu of options that parties can choose from, depending upon the nature of their data sharing arrangement. And this is similar to the approach that currently is used with open source and Creative Commons licenses. Some of the terms that we observe that could be helpful with respect to developing these forms are as follows. For example, we could see the need to develop various different model terms dealing with the allocation of proprietary rights, both to input data, cleanse data, untrained models, trained AI models, as well as outputs from the AI models. We also see a need to develop forms that help parties balance privacy on the one hand and data sharing on the other hand, both dealing with regulatory issues around data privacy, but also providing easy templates to be able to capitalize on some of the benefits of privacy enhancing technology. We also saw through our work that parties are concerned about some of the ethical implications of the use of the data and AI models. So we see a need to try to address some of those terms as well as usage restrictions more broadly. And the types of terms that we identified are set forth more fully in our report. And finally, we would just encourage all the parties working on these types of agreements to continue their efforts, and we're there to try to help support. We also noted that as parties work to develop these model terms, that challenges exist, and this is also laid out on our report. For example, there are technical challenges. Currently, we don't have widely accepted means with respect to data sharing and data governance. And if we could develop data interoperability terms and APIs, that would certainly help facilitate data sharing arrangements. We also flagged some of the legal uncertainties, both with respect to privacy regulations, AI regulations, IP laws that make these arrangements, data sharing arrangements, AI model arrangements more complicated. We also point to some of the business uncertainties that the parties still have trouble valuing the data and AI models, which is an impediment to the transaction. And we also highlight the need that our colleagues in the data governance group are working on of data justice, that as we go forward with data sharing arrangements, we need to work on this. And kind of the takeaway here is, as we work on the standardized licensing terms, we also need to think about these challenges. And as we make progress on the challenges, it should advance our ability to develop more model contract terms. Finally, in terms of next steps, on behalf of the IP Advisory Group, we really would like to help the global community move this work forward. We're hoping in 2023 to host some workshops on these topics. We're hoping to host one at the Max Planck Institute with my co-lead, Josef Drexel, and host one at Duke and other organizations that are interested in hosting workshops. Second, as you've heard throughout the summit, various different GPAI working groups are working on data sharing, data collaboration projects, and we hope to work with them to try to figure out arrangements on the contractual side for data sharing in the context of their broader projects. And finally, we encourage all of you in the broader community who are working on these projects to continue with these efforts. And we want to let you know that our advisory group is a resource, and you should feel free to reach out to us if you have questions about our work or if we can be supportive. Thank you very much for your time and attention.
Okay, before we move on to the next group, are there any questions for the IP? No? Okay, if there's no questions, Ima just got here and she'll present live the work that she and her group has been doing. Ima?
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you. I'm just waiting for the slides to go up. I just saw it a minute ago. Okay, so this project I have the honor and pleasure of co-chairing together with Daniela Ras, who is the head of robotics and research at MIT. And if we move to the next slide, I just want to share with you which were the original objectives and why we were bringing this project into fruition, which AI in agriculture is not just about optimizing the agriculture and livestock farming sectors. It has repercussions on how climate change is affecting the state of arable land, but not just climate change, is very outdated methodologies of really cultivating plants that needs to be transformed and innovated, which are damaging the quality of arable land. And on the second level, we also want to ensure that the human food chain begins to show traceability, and that agricultural communities are able to extract data to prove to governments that the way they grow the land has no toxicity and not perils for human food consumption. And lastly, but very important to me, is that agriculture tech is really becoming a rising sector, and many young people that work in technology and in AI are coming to rural areas to establish their startups, their businesses, and really live in those rural areas. And this has a huge impact on net migration to replenish rural areas with people, with families, and have a regeneration from the human aspect side. So the project has different layers of value, and I was really thankful when it was approved last year. So if we move to the next slide, I'll show you what we achieved in the last 10 months, maybe less. So we gathered case studies because we wanted this project to be evidence gathering. We need to prove that AI is already implanted in certain aspects of agriculture. Not AI as in 10 years ago, certain postdoctoral students at agricultural universities would go into a field and ask the owner, can we put drones? We're doing a project for the university. No. Real companies, especially medium-sized companies in technology, in AI, are offering these services, products and services, to cooperatives, small farmers. So we gathered case studies that range across 5 different types of solutions in AI. So automated systems, optimizing systems, detection, prediction of crops, and then track and trace. And one of the greatest findings that I found, and my colleagues and I found, is that it actually works best, AI works best when it helps the small farmers. Because small farmers, they have very arduous, work-intensive, labor trying to do things on their own. Many of them are organized as cooperatives, and when they organize themselves as cooperatives, you have a new business model in agriculture, which is the cooperative buys the AI, the robots, the harvester machine that has AI, and therefore everybody can use it, sharing these hardwares and these softwares. Yeah. Also, there are solutions that the solutions providers have created to make it very easy for farmers to use. And how do they work? They work with WhatsApp. They work on mobiles. They work on small devices that understand that the farmers are always in the fields. They're not behind the computer. Only when they have solutions for field technicians, if you have an exploitation that has like 50,000 hectares, then you have a lot more people with more technicality. So they have solutions that look like dashboards. But the good news about this model is that it can be applied in developing countries, which is something that some of our observers, especially UNESCO, always reminded me. INMA, please make sure that the the developing countries can benefit from AI, and AI is not just for the rich farmers of the world. So we have achieved probably the target that we had by 75% of the case studies that we needed to kind of prove the state of AI in agriculture in the world. And we will finish adding case studies this year. Hopefully, I have been promised that I'm going to get Netherlands and more case studies from Japan, coming in. And what we will build this year is using the web portal that was developed by AI Singapore. We will then use that template to then build a similar repository of agricultural AI data for the agriculture information. And what we want is that any AI solution providers there can be easily found, their solutions can be easily understood, and people working in agriculture have a repository that is easy to consult with. The European Space Agency, whom I managed to bring on board because in a previous life I work in the space programs, are collaborating with us, also sharing their labs, the PI labs that they have, where they have algorithms that use data agro, and we have also a collaborating resource at the University of Loyola in Spain, which is building the database. So this is so far what we have done in, I would say, 6 months for real. Calendar is 10, 11, but the real work was very fast. And what we will be doing next year, if we move to the next slide, so if you can move it again, I'm just, yeah. So what we have here is the findings, the indicators that I shared with you. We have solutions that are already established. We have solutions that actually contribute to sustainability and the green economy, and you manage the resources much better. So these are the actionable results that we will build at the end of the project. Like, if anybody wants to implant AI in the fields, what are they going to get? What do you get from doing something like that? Yeah. So it's very specific. And the next slide, please. So what we have for next year is then reach out to further case studies, especially in livestock farming. Also begin to see which specific types of crops, which specific type of agriculture will benefit most from AI. So for example, perishable fruits, any fruits, tropical fruits, are some of the plant-based kind of growth that has benefited the most from AI. You can predict when you need to pick the harvest, when you need to pick it so that it goes in transport. So, we will select, what are the best applications of AI, and then build the portal in a friendly way that anybody can consult it. So last but not least, I just want to move to who are the specialists that have been engaged with our project. If you move to the next slide, please. And I'm very thankful that we managed to get really relevant figures in AI in agriculture, and in specific, because Japan is at the new presidency, I really want to thank Dr. Murakami, Director General from NATO, who has been fundamental in helping us understand some very specific use cases that developed in Japan that have created some of the best insights for the project, and I'm really thankful for his help. And I don't have anything else to add if anyone has any questions for me.
Oh, we have one.
Just for matter of information, how do you define a small farmer or in Europe? Because like in India, for example, they have perhaps a different kind of definition.
6 hectares.
6 hectares? Oh, that's big. Okay, so it has to be much bigger, than compared to what we have in India. A small farmer would be, I think even about half a hectare or something like that, So
I mean, if they are half a hectare,
maybe less than that.
if you are growing half a hectare, you can pretty much do a lot of things on your own. But what we see in agriculture is that small farmers tend to organize themselves in cooperatives, and then the cooperative becomes the unit that we study, because this is probably the channel where we see AI really coming in and helping small communities, and also how they share all the resources. But 6 hectares is nothing.
No, I mean, that's what I'm saying. The European standards are different. US may be even very different than European in that sense, you know, what a small, that's the reason I asked. Thank you.
Is there any other questions or online?
Thank you very much for a wonderful presentation. I think the cases at the end were quite interesting in terms of illustrating exactly how the AI is used. And putting an emphasis on that is probably going to be very important in trying to get, buy-in when selling the AI, the benefits of AI. And I think in the other 2 previous presentations also, I didn't see many kind of concrete cases, very only aggregate presentation. I think it might be useful to try to, at least illustrate some of the representative use cases that you might have found in your study. I think that might be helpful in kind of giving a better idea of what might be the benefits. Thank you.
Maybe I can answer that. Yeah. For the SME portal, the use cases are actually listed there. So when you go in, you search, depending on the solution provider, they will indicate basically what is the background, what is the problem they're trying to solve. Thank you, Ima. I know you need to rush off for the other meeting. Thank you. If it's not if it's not confidential, they also list down, for example, the cost of the project and so on and so forth. So in the movie, we didn't really show, but during the site event, for those who are interested, we can actually go through the live portal and I can walk you through the portal. Yeah.
With relation to the intellectual property primer, for example, we of course collected questionnaires and a list of questions and asked the SMEs about question which they would like to ask for other SMEs to find the answers in the final IP primer, because IP primer is a very precedence vademecum of how to deal with artificial intelligence in the intellectual property domain and how to define strategy, how to define your business model and finally convert this for commercialization of artificial intelligence. On which way? On commercialization from the trade secret perspective, open source methodology, or licensing the intellectual property. And finally, you can find in the long version of the report the comparison between the jurisdiction. That will be the final barriers of decision of going to the market after innovation. And innovation can find the barriers in front of elements of artificial intelligence system protected by intellectual property. And we think that the future, our work in the 3rd pillar is to define the contracts of sharing knowledge and eventually intellectual property on a modern way, not as an open source, not as a protection license system, but something between, like a maybe club of mutual recognition rules among shared among like-minded partners. That is a new elaboration staying in front of us. After that case studies, but these case studies gave us evidence that SMEs mostly are not prepared to define own strategy of how to govern an intellectual property outside of the national ecosystem or cross-borderly. Thank you.
Thank you, Robert. There's one question.
Hello, my name is Clara Neppel, and before working at IEEE, I worked at the European Patent Office. So I was wondering, in the IP primer, did you also tackle the problem of the patentability of AI? Because that's probably the biggest difference between US and then the European Union. And I think that especially for startups, it's a big problem and in general for industry, because they might be confronted with some claims, patent claims, which are actually not valid because they are just patent applications. And so I think that there is a big need to raise awareness on that in general. So I really would like to discuss more on your idea to having something in between patents and something else. I think that's an interesting idea.
Well, I would ask my fellow co-chair. Lee, are you online? Would you want to answer that question?
Yeah, I'm here, and Robert had worked a lot with Yan on the primer. I mean, it's high-level guidance, so it does provide some overview on how patent systems work. And as Yan had mentioned, it does do some compare and contrasting between the different patent regimes in different jurisdictions. And also kind of coming back to the case study model, even in putting our report together on the licensing terms. And I agree with you. I mean, the goal here is to come up with models that can work for SMEs. We did do about a dozen interviews, and like Ema's work, we really only started this work in the spring, but the whole goal was to reach out to people who actually are licensing data, who are trying to use IP rights, and find out what their needs are and build them into the report. So the hope is through workshops next year and our ongoing work, we can try to help the community advance some of these solutions.
Okay, is there any questions? If not, I think we are on time. If there's no more other, wait, can we get back to the slides? Yeah, sorry. We have one more project proposal for 2023, which the steering committee has approved, right? Boosting innovation while regulating AI. The vision of this, Andreas, are you online? No. The vision of this proposed project is to help SMEs navigate each country's rules and regulations with respect to AI. This group is not going to dictate or come up or recommend any new rules or regulation. What they plan to do is to create a set of toolkits that will help companies, especially SMEs, when they expand to different markets. What are the different rules and regulations respect to their industries that they need to look out for? So that's a big task, and I'm glad that it's been approved for 2023. And Andreas from Applied AI in Germany is leading this effort together with his team. So with that, this is just a snapshot of the people that have been involved heavily in the last 1 year in the SME committees, the IP committees, and the agro committees. So I'd like to thank everyone that have contributed, and the audience here for participating in this session, and also the questions asked. We do have the site event later for those who want to delve a little bit more into the SME portal And if there's interest, I'll see how I can set up to show you a live demo of the system. Yeah. With that, I'll close this session. Thank you.